This program is brought to you by the Kentucky Small Business Development Center in Louisville. We provide the professional expertise, tools, and resources to help you succeed. To connect with a business coach, call 502-625-0123 or email sbdcinfo@uky.edu.
Welcome, everybody, to another Toolkit Tuesday. Hi, I'm Dave Etkin. I'm the director here at the Louisville Small Business Development Center. I'm glad to see everybody. And as we wait for everybody to join, we've got quite a few people that have signed up today. If you wouldn't mind, if you look to the bottom of your screen, you'll see a toolbar. And if you don't, just take your cursor and hover down at the bottom. It should pop right up. And there you see the chat feature. And if you wouldn't mind, just to make sure you can hear and see as well, just click the chat button, and if you wouldn't mind, just say, tell us your name and where you're joining from, somewhere in the universe. I'm sure you're there, and just say hello and that you can see and hear us. And it's always great to see where people join from. We get people from all over the world sometimes. And then as we go through our day today, if you have any questions or comments for our presenter today, you just put those there and we'll get right to them, because it'll be a great opportunity to get some questions in there. So wouldn't mind, just say hello, make sure everything's working well. Yeah, there's Latoya. Hey, Latoya, how are you? You guys like fried bologna like I do. Latoya's restaurant is the place to go. They're on Broadway in Louisville. So good to see you, Latoya. There's Robert Lau, Louisville. Cute. There's Janet. Janet runs everything from the back. Thanks for being here, Janet. So we should have a big day today. We get a lot of requests here at the Small Business Development Center of people starting businesses, specifically food businesses. And one of the big requests is catering. Some people want to make it a full-time job and try to build a big business in catering. Sometimes they just want to do some side work and put together a little side business, where they also do catering. So I thought it'd be great to get a real catering expert to come and say hello to us. And so I've asked Claire Bridges, who is also a coach here on our staff. So if you're interested in really launching your catering business, or if you have one going already and you want some additional input, please reach out to us and we can connect you with Claire. She is a great expert. So Claire, welcome. Good to see you today.
Hi there.
So Claire, I'm just going to go ahead and just get out of your way. I'm going to let you share your screen, and let's get started and dive right into the catering business.
Sounds good.
All right, that looks great.
All right. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for coming to the Toolkit Tuesday today around creating a successful catering business. I am, like Dave said, a business coach at the Small Business Development Center. But before that, I ran a catering company here in town adjacent to a restaurant for the past 5 years. So I'm bringing all of my experience from that along with us today, so we can go through some helpful things that I've learned along the way. Let's see. Today we will talk about the following items, and please, again, like Dave said, feel free to drop a question in the chat anytime. I'm happy to, go into further detail or clarify any point that I'm talking about throughout the presentation. So we'll talk about a menu formation, event planning and execution, pricing and contracts, marketing and growth, and then necessary credentials. And just as kind of a precursor to the whole presentation, whether you have a restaurant that's already functioning and you want to add a catering, stream of revenue to that, or if your whole focus is a catering department, we can work through that as well in these scenarios that we talk about today. So first on the docket is menu formation. Take the lead and create boundaries. This will save you time over and over again as your business is ramping up. If you can create some structure around your menu and some boundaries for yourself. So thinking about menu formation, what do you already serve if you are an existing restaurant? What existing menu items that you have in-house, inventory is already there that you can make. Think about what specific items define your brand. You know, if you're local to Louisville and people know you for something XYZ, are you able to offer that in catering as well? And it pulls in as a marketing tool. You'll also want to consider general food palettes and dietary restrictions because you're catering and not at a restaurant. It has to be a bit more overarching as far as appealing to the general palate. And these days, many folks do have necessary dietary restrictions that they have to follow. So making sure you kind of hit all the boxes, like have some vegetarian and vegan options, have some gluten-free options, and talk through those options with your customers. You'll also want to choose items that are easy to prepare in large quantities. So unlike a restaurant where you can cook everything to order, you are batch cooking far ahead of time and then serving it later on. So if it is not something that you can cook in large quantities, it's not going to work out very smoothly for catering. And then offer consistent menu items. I think this is a really important piece as you're starting off in particular. And it's kind of talking about those boundaries that I mentioned, is saying that this is what we offer. If you'd like to hire us, this is what we do, as opposed to, oh yeah, we can do barbecue chicken, or we can do Chinese food, or we can do Italian food. Like pick your lane and create a realistic menu and stay in that, because that will go much further than kind of being all over the place as far as what people request from you. You will also need to modify food preparation if you are a restaurant and then transitioning into that catering space. So considering what you will prepare at the restaurant or at a commissary kitchen versus what needs to be prepared on site at the event. Will the preparation be the same every time, or will it vary based on the timing and location? So if you are usually cooking in a commissary kitchen and taking it to an event venue downtown, and they've got a kitchen on site with warming ovens, that's one type of service. But if you are cooking at a commissary kitchen and then taking it to a field in Oldham County for a farm wedding, that's a very different cooking scenario. And so you will have to adjust how you're cooking things. Also consider the type of equipment you have available. So in the menu that you present to folks, don't offer items that like you couldn't realistically create with the equipment you have to take with you. Don't rely on kitchen equipment being available to you out in the field. So also another step to creating a menu is to create menu templates. And this is going to help you streamline the order process with your clients. It allows you to keep inventory to a minimum. One, because if they can only order so many different items from you and different combinations of items from you, you have more control over your inventory. It allows for easier ordering and planning. And then again, just keeping those boundaries around your templates. So here's some examples of those templates. And it just really helps steer the clients in the right direction as far as, okay, I know the amount of food I need to order for the type of event I'm having. And you as the provider are ensuring like, yes, you will have a full lunch that everyone will eat and enjoy and be full from. Or, you know, if it's an appetizer reception and the group has dinner plans afterwards, they probably don't need heavy appetizers. They probably only need some light appetizers. So really giving those kind of clearer guidelines as to what they should order will help you save time in the planning process. It also assures that they've done the right work in ordering the right amount of things. Here's some example templates if you want to take a look at them. But, think through the items that you have on your menu and kind of weigh out like, okay, these are heavier items, they're bigger, they're more filling, these are lighter options. Or, my entrees are really filling things, or they're lighter fare. They might need 2 side dishes instead of 1 side dish to make everyone feel full. So if you can kind of break out the templates ahead of time, that's going to really help folks. And then also just kind of being able from a kitchen and ordering perspective to know how much to prepare. So if you're dealing with different sizes of groups of people, you might do lunches for 25, you might do appetizer receptions for 50 or 75. Maybe you have a wedding for 150 people, and you're going to need to know how much do I make according to these different size groups. So this is kind of a really standard portion size suggestion for you all to take with you. You will get the recording after this. So any of these kind of hard numbers you'll have available to you after the recording. In general, about 3 ounces of a dip for an appetizer, bite-sized appetizers that you eat in 1 or 2 bites, maybe 2 pieces per person, and larger appetizers, 1.5 per person. They're probably not all going to take 2. If you're doing past appetizers, there's a difference with, if you're going to a station table where you're making your own plate, folks might tend to grab a little bit more, put more in their plate. If they're taking past appetizers off of a tray, they're only going to grab 1 at a time in a slow pace. And so they probably won't go through that much food. So you can drop your portions a little bit that way. As for entrees, salad is a little bit of a wild card. So you never know how much they're going to take, but the good thing is that it is a large filler on a plate, so it can take up more space where they may not have as much room to fill with extra proteins. Or say they fill up on it, but it's very inexpensive and it's not going to cost you a lot food cost wise. For a buffet dinner, 4 ounces of protein cooked, and then for a plated dinner, 6 ounces of protein cooked is a pretty safe estimate as far as guests per person. And then a full deep chafing dish can serve 20 to 30 servings of a side dish. So these parameters are going to give you some ways to, not waste food. If you're in the beginning process, you haven't gone to a lot of events yet to see, okay, that was 100 people. They went through 5 pans of mashed potatoes. You'll be able to tell over time just from attending events how much people take in, but this should give you a really good starting point. And then as far as bar and beverage options, as a caterer, you can kind of decide if you want to offer drink and beverage service as well, or if you wanted to just stick to the food, or maybe you stick to food and non-alcoholic beverages. Here's some considerations to think about if you're creating this catering department or catering company. Non-alcoholic beverages are a very large moneymaker. The markup on those is pretty decent. And so that there's no labor involved in picking up a case of sodas or water bottles from the store. So that's something that I think is worth having in-house. If you do bar service, however, this requires additional liability insurance, additional licensing, additional staff, additional space and products to store all of your bar inventory, and then systems like keeping inventory, prepping for the bar, set up for that, etc. So you really want to weigh, do I have capacity for this right now, or would a better option be to subcontract this service out through another company in town? If you do offer bar service, again, you're going to want to kind of form that menu the same that you would form a food menu. Keep options pared down. What drinks are easy to make in large quantities or mix quickly? You don't want to be making craft cocktails with 7 to 10 steps involved in each drink. That is not sustainable for a large event. You want to simplify your garnish, just pre-cut, orange peel or lime wedges or something ahead of time, and just everything gets that. And then assess what type of prep time you need ahead of events, because a bar setup is a decent amount of work in addition to setting up tables or linens or the buffet line or plated dinner service, things like that. So you want to make sure you incorporate that extra work time into your plan of service. Again, here's like a example of a bar menu template. And so if you were offering bar services, you could have these options already spelled out for folks, so they don't have to go around thinking, oh, I don't know what's popular or what types of things should I offer. These are very common and easily accessible for folks, appealing to the general crowd. And you could have different levels, basic beer and wine, or if you wanted to do beer and a signature cocktail and wine, or then offer a full bar, you could have different templates again for that. Moving on to event planning. I think it's really important to remember, as the caterer, you are an integral part of the event as a whole. You are not just providing the food that the people are eating. You are doing that, but you are also involved in how many tables need to be present. You are involved in the timeline of the event because you need to know when people are going to eat. You are involved in the setup process because you're going to make sure there's space for a buffet table planned accordingly, or your staff is setting up the plated dinner place settings at every table. So not only are you serving the food, but it works along with all the other pieces of the event planning process. And it's just very important to be aware of that and be engaged in it. So initially, as folks are considering you for their catering, if they would like to see what you offer, it's really important to have your menu online, available for searching. Be very transparent about your menu items. Again, if you list your menu items, they're not going to come to you as a Southern inspired food caterer and ask for, Latin food. They'll know, okay, this is what these folks offer. It might be what I'm looking for, it might not be. And they can make that quick decision and not waste your time emailing back and forth or having those conversations. Yes, we do this. No, we don't do this, etc. So if you can build a really strong website with clear information, be transparent with your prices. I think this goes a really far way, and it saves you time because folks can assess that again on their own. They don't have to come and ask for a quote, and you don't have to produce the quote, et cetera, et cetera. They can see and do some quick math. Okay, these folks can offer me plated dinner for $30 a person or whatever number. But they can say a quick, okay, we're going to have about 100 to 150 guests. Is that in our price range? That transparency and cost will help them make a quicker decision, engage in you if they're more serious. And if not, they can move on and you can go about your day without having to waste any time. Clients will be grateful for this as well. It's not a good feeling as a client, if you want to think of it from the customer angle, of going down a path of not, okay, if we do this, and then you get a quote that's just not realistic for you, then you may feel in an awkward position as well as a client. And if you present all of this information very clearly on a website, showcase what you've done before, have great pictures of your food, have great descriptions, it's another chance to showcase your products and kind of market yourself. I also encourage you to create an inquiry response verbiage and like an intake form. So these things will save you time in the long run. It's a lot of kind of repeat questions and information you need to capture at once. So having that kind of down pat and doing it the same way every time is going to save you a whole lot of time. And it makes sure you don't miss any important pieces of information. So again, it allows you to capture a large amount of information. You understand how the catering fits into the rest of the event plans, giving you that context around the event. And then you also have the opportunity to guide your customer around best practices. Folks have not, if they're planning a wedding, they likely haven't planned a wedding before. So you are the expert. You've planned 20 weddings this year. You know what works, you know what doesn't work. So if you can have that conversation and have that kind of back end operational system set up, then you can guide them to make the best choices for them and for you. You know what's easy to execute and what streamlines the process. So you guide them towards that in these early conversations. Just a repeat. Streamline the intake process by asking these questions. The event date. As you ramp up with catering sales, you will have overlaps in dates. And so you're going to want to need to know your capacity, whether, it's a wedding and a lunch. Okay, that might be doable. If it's a wedding and a large corporate reception on the same day and the same time, that might not be in your capacity right now. So knowing the date and checking your calendar, knowing the venue and location. If it's a venue you work at over and over again, that's much easier to execute and plan for than somewhere you've never been before. Or if it's somewhere like, again, we'll use that field in Oldham County as an example of someone doing like a tent wedding and you have to set up from scratch. So knowing about the venue and the location, knowing the logistics of the space. If you're planning an event or taking an inquiry phone call and you have not been to or worked at the location, you might want to do some quick research online or call up the event director at that space and just ask them some questions about how they see things working well. You will also want to ask the event type. Is it a corporate event? Is it a private birthday celebration? Is it a wedding, a rehearsal dinner? Just knowing what the intent behind it is. The menu format, are they doing appetizers only? Are they having dinner? Is it a plated dinner or a buffet? And then the timeline for the event. So making sure you capture all that information up front. And then after you've done all that event planning, in when it is time to execute the event, I suggest you kind of carve out some weekly planning time every week and just kind of hold that space as your meeting time. So pick a time that you don't often have caterings. Often mornings earlier in the week are better than like a Thursday afternoon or something. So just hold that for meetings and talk about the events that are coming up. Have some really strong communication between the event planners who are taking in the information and then who they're giving it to, often the kitchen staff or event managers who are executing the event. Clear and consistent timelines, not only for the event, but for your back end process of prepping and planning ahead of time. Making sure everyone knows the setup plan and venue logistics, and then just the general plan of execution. I'm going to set up the appetizers first over here in Garden A, and then chef number one is going to serve appetizers while I go and plate all the salads over in the kitchen, while the servers are putting water in the water glasses. So everyone knows when if every step of execution is happening. Moving on to pricing and contracts. So here's just some basic information around pricing structures in the food industry. Industry average food costs is around 30%. That's probably low right now because of inflation. So you might want to adjust accordingly. Industry average labor cost is also 30%. So that means 60% of the amount you charge is already eaten up by paying for the food and paying for the labor to make the food. Here's kind of a simple food cost breakdown. So if you are for appetizers, you're charging $4 to a customer. It costs you $1 to purchase the food for those appetizers. So you have a profit of $3. Same for side dish, entree, dessert. The food cost, the COGS, cost of goods varies, but overall, this average is 27.5%. That's a great food cost. Again, it's probably going to be up a little bit right now because of inflation. So you want to assess what ingredients you're buying, what menu options you're offering, and making sure you can stay within those boundaries, those guidelines of the industry average, to know that this is going to be a profitable endeavor for you. You don't want to blow all your profit on food cost. And that comes into relationships with vendors, knowing who's got the best prices right now, knowing if it's worth ordering nightly and having it delivered versus trips to different stores, or vice versa. Sometimes trips to different stores can cost you more because it takes more time. So assessing those things and really doing those cost breakdowns and staying up on it, because again, prices change and fluctuate, inflation happens. You might do this initially when you're planning your menu, but you want to check 6 months down the road, a year down the road, make sure these numbers are still in line with each other. Labor breakdown's a little bit different, but overall the average tends to be around 30%. Here's where it's interesting with catering in particular is that there's going to be a minimum amount of people or amount of sales that you need to do to make it worth your time. And then above that minimum, your labor cost stays pretty low. It stays about the same as that initial minimum, but your profit grows, because let's look at these examples here. If you have 100 guests and your food you're charging $35 per person times 100 guests, the total is $3,500. If the event planning, intake, proposal, updates, confirmation, logistics takes about 2 hours, and you're paying a manager or event planner $25 an hour, so that's about $50 in labor there. Shopping and ordering ingredients takes approximately 2 hours. You're paying a manager, a chef, $25 to do that, $50. Average prep time, this is definitely an average, for a buffet dinner, which includes 2 apps, a salad, 2 entrees, and a side, maybe takes 8 hours for 2 employees to prep that food. That's $320 in labor. So you've spent $420 in labor. You're going to have another 30% in food costs, but you're making a good profit off of this. What happens if it changes to 50 guests? Your totals, half, $1,750. The planning is going to take the same amount of time. So you're still going to be paying $50 for planning, still paying $50 for shopping and ordering. It doesn't change whether you're buying 10 packages of spinach versus 5 packages of spinach. You still have to take the time to do that. The prep time maybe goes down just a little bit because you don't have to make so many appetizers or something, but you're still making 2 appetizers, a salad, 2 entrees, a side. So your labor goes down a little bit to $280, and then your overall labor cost is $380. What happens if you take this down to 25 guests? Let's look at this top number here. 875 is the total, and you're spending $327.50 on labor. So you can see how it eats into your profit quite a bit. And really, there's not much that changes in the planning and preparation. A little bit, maybe a 25-person buffet takes a little bit less time to plan, but you still need to make sure you're checking all the boxes. It's probably going to take less time to prep, but not by much, because it's really, you're still creating all of these separate items, paying a little bit less for labor. Maybe you could cut to 1 employee, but you probably have to pay for more hours. So just looking over that change in labor can make a big difference. And this is a light bulb moment. Find the minimum amount you need to charge for catering to make profit. Do not accept orders less than that amount. This is so critical. In the beginning, I know I see it all the time, folks wanting to say yes to catering orders. Yeah, I'll do that. Yeah, I'll do that to be available, when actually they're going to end up running themselves into the ground because they haven't charged appropriately or made sure that it's a safe endeavor for them, because you can't have a $400 catering, pay $320 in labor, and buy the food and make any profit. So you have to find that bare minimum and then hold your line and do not go over that, or do not go under that for what you're gonna say yes to. And it feels really hard to deny business when you're a startup business, but it's actually beneficial to you because you will not be losing money that way. There are other things that you should charge for accordingly. You should charge for staff for on-site execution. So not incorporated in those labor charges we just talked about are like all the servers and the event manager and the chefs that you need to have on site to execute the event. You should charge the client accordingly. You know, I need 3 servers and a manager and 2 cooks, and their hourly wage at approximately, you know, the amount of time they'll be dedicating to setting up, working the event, breaking down and cleaning up, and charge them for that time as well. You can charge if you choose to subcontract your bar services, or if you say, hey, I'm going to make sure all the rentals are correct because I don't want to show up to the event and not have the right plateware or enough forks or coffee cups or something. You can take the rentals into your own hands and subcontract that, and also charge a service charge on that because you have done that extra work for the client. If you need to charge a delivery fee, maybe some of those smaller events that you kind of on the line of saying yes or no to, maybe it's like a $500 lunch. Well, charge a delivery fee. That'll help, you know, cut some costs and pad your profit a little bit. And then also charge an overall service charge on the whole ticket. This is a standard practice. People expect it. In my experience, it's not something that is off-putting at all. Here's kind of a sample invoice just so you can take a look and see like what's being charged for. So in this scenario, the food was $3,525. Their bar service, which was contracted out in this case, this company paid another bartending service $718 for liquor and labor for the event. There was $1,100 charged for labor, and that is only on site. So that means they needed multiple servers and event managers and chefs available on site to plate the food. Maybe they're cooking some on site, passing appetizers, things like that. So this was labor for on-site execution. And then other would be rentals. There was rentals that this caterer took into their hands and subcontracted through a rental company. That costs $835. You will see that there is a service charge. This is a 20% service charge on the food. There is a service charge on the bar that they coordinated for the client. There is a service charge on the labor because you have to find that amount of staff. You have to coordinate their timing and location and driving and everything like that. You need to make sure they know the plan. You've trained them to know what to do at an event. You're charging a service charge on the labor. You're also charging a service charge on the rentals that you've coordinated for them. And so then plus taxes, your totals come down here. So even though the food costs $3,525, the total expenses are $7,859. Yes, you are going to pay out $718 to the bartending service at the end, and $835 to the rental company in the end. However, this is a much better profit than if you had to do all of this with just the $3,525 you're charging for food. That wouldn't be realistic or sustainable as a company. So, excuse me. Create a contract. This is very, very important because you have gone through the whole process of planning their event. You've had multiple interactions with them. You have, invested time essentially already before even purchasing food or cooking food. You also want to make sure that it is safe to purchase that food and pay your staff in labor costs to make the food. So clearly state the products and services provided, what you are doing for them. You also will want to talk about those service charges added on to any subcontracted service in a catering contract. And then what your staff is expected and paid to do during the event. Like, if the venue doesn't set up their own tables and chairs, okay, there was going to be additional fee if we have to set up the tables and chairs. Or stating that if you don't want that additional fee, you're welcome to coordinate this yourself. Maybe you've got some great friends and family members. Maybe your groomsmen want to go set up those chairs in the morning. Just being very clear and concise about what will happen and how much it will cost them. It creates a relationship with reliable clients, because people that are serious about their events are going to know that you are also a serious and experienced caterer and you know what to do. Also consider charging a deposit. This will make sure that it is safe for you to spend that time planning. You're not going to book every event you plan, but more often than not, you will. And consider charging that deposit because it's going to help with your cash flow. Knowing like, okay, I've got to purchase this much ingredients ahead of time this week. We've got a really busy week. We're not going to get paid till the day of the event. However you structure your payment process, but charging a deposit is going to ensure safety in the sales that you're making. Always consult with a lawyer when making a contract. There's some great examples online of just kind of contract templates, and then you can fill in based on your catering specifics and specifics to your business and services. And then marketing and growth for your catering department or catering company. Be proactive and be strategic. Identifying your ideal catering client or event type. This is super helpful when you're starting up. Again, you're going to kind of get hit with different requests from different customers, et cetera. And you're going to want to kind of assess like, okay, this is a really easy event type for me to do. This takes more of my time. It takes more labor. It's more detailed. And what's that balance of this, like the sweet spot where you're going to make enough money and not have to put so much work into it. So think about the client type, whether it's a private party client, like a birthday party or a special dinner or something, a corporate client, and a wedding client. Corporate clients are probably going to be the biggest moneymaker because they have more money accessible to them to spend. They may want to be impressing clients of their own. If they're in an event venue, they're already paying large dollars to be there. Budget's probably not going to be an issue for them. Wedding clients, it tends to be a higher ticket item overall, but it does take a whole lot more work and planning from the back end for you. So knowing like, okay, charge appropriately for these and maybe try and feed those corporate client relationships more because you're going to make more profit off of that. Thinking about event type, are breakfast and lunches most profitable for you? Or is it appetizer receptions? It is. That's a secret for everyone. buffet style versus plated dinner service, just assessing what's going to make you the most profit. There's also ways to kind of be strategic. If it's a corporate appetizer reception, I could guarantee you, I would bet money that they're not going to eat as much food as they order. You probably don't have to prep that much food. You should maybe bring it along to be a good person, and have it available to make if needed, but maybe you've got some protein you can send back and reuse later if it's held appropriately and stored and not served out in front. Having those things that are, changing the way you do service from time to time, depending on the event type and the client type, is going to make a big impact as well. So all that to say, for growth, focus your outreach on attracting this type of business. If you want more corporate clients, you need to be in front of more corporate clients. You need to be in spaces where corporate clients are booking. You need to be reaching out to corporate clients to let them know what you offer on your amazing website that you have, things like that. If you want to do more wedding business, if that's really your sweet spot, that's what you do, okay, partner with some wedding planners, get really involved in the vendor culture, make sure you're top in line of venues around town for recommendations, things like that. Be aware of your business. Ask yourself, how is my business coming to me right now? Where am I getting these sales from? Because that's automatically happening. So you're going to want to nurture that. And thinking of relationships to nurture, look at other local businesses in your neighborhood. If you have either a commissary kitchen or a restaurant, and there's other folks, other hustle and bustle going on around you, they are likely hosting events or need food for some purpose at some time. So you could be the provider of that food. Look for your existing customers, especially as a restaurant. Let them know you cater. Give that message out to them in newsletters, give it out to them in, flyers you hand out, and, on your check at the end of the evening after they've dined with you. Have social media messages available to let people know that you also cater. Other event vendors, so making those relationships with rental companies, with bar services, floral designers, wedding planners, just being in that space and available and showing up is going to make an impact, because they'll know, oh, so and so, you have great cookies. I really want to have them at my daughter's rehearsal dinner, and you'll get business that way out of recommendation. And then event venues as well, because that's kind of some automatic business. So speaking of event venues and approved vendor lists, it's one of the most important tools for growing your business. If you can get approved to be on a vendor list, so let's use distilleries around town because they're really popular. There's, downtown, Angel's Envy, Rabbit Hole, Evan Williams. And so if you can be an approved vendor for these venues that are already hosting events, they've already got business coming in the door, then you will get business coming in the door. It's automatic sales. It's also automatic marketing, because that's just putting your name out there, and people might not know about you before. Maybe they don't choose you for the event, but they look you up and say, oh, I want to go there for dinner tomorrow night. It's a great way to be involved in the community. Building the relationships with these venues can take time. So once you're on the list, depending on what types of events this venue does, maybe they're booking weddings already for the following year. So your initial business isn't going to kickstart immediately, but it will happen in cycles following, quarterly, half a year, and yearly probably. And then create consistent outreach and communication with these event vendors. So they typically have like a lead event planner or event manager or something, and making sure they know what you offer. Tell them what you do. Like, what niche do you fill for their vendor list? Are you budget friendly? Are you dietary friendly? Are you like a unique cuisine option and you're not the normal like wedding chicken option? What do you offer that others on the list don't offer, so that they know when to appropriately recommend you for those events? Also, as your business grows, it's really important to track your business over time. This is like a really fun, dorky thing that I really like to do. It's super interesting to me. So these are just different ways you can track your business. So tracking the business you turned down and why you turn it down. Was it not worth your time or money? Were you already booked? Was it at a space that you aren't approved to work at? Those are very different scenarios. So knowing why you're turning down business, and then, okay, well, should we change something to be able to accept this business? Track what venues you work at the most, who's giving you the most business, and feed those relationships even more. Say thank you to them, acknowledge that they're sending you business your way. It's a really important relationship and will go really far. Track the event types that you do. What's your most popular event type? What are you doing the most of? That's going to tell you where you're making your most profit, where you should focus your energy in marketing. Or maybe okay, we do 5 breakfasts a year. Let's scratch it. It's not worth our time. Tracking the seasonality of your catering business. Obviously, winter months get a little bit slower after the holidays, and then spring, summer, fall are much more busy. So that will help you plan appropriately for staffing. Track your repeat customers, who's ordering, a $1,500 lunch from you every month for their office. Say thank you. That's great business to have on repeat. Track your weekly, monthly, and yearly sales. This is going to help you find your capacity and know what to expect in the future. So if you can look and say, okay, we did $50,000 of sales this month. It felt like $50,000 in sales. It was too much. We needed more staff. We were all frenzied and crazy. I think if we did that again, we would need one more prep person and one more event manager available to all keep our heads on straight. Same with number of events. So every catering is not created equal. Like we looked back on those different, 100 guests, 50 guests, 25 guests. So the type of event and number of events matters. Making a box lunch with sandwiches is very different than a plated dinner. If you have 5 plated dinners in a week, that is a whole lot more work than if you have 5 box lunches in a week. And so knowing how to kind of expect the workload and balance it all is really important. So these are some really interesting tracking features for you. And there will be some growing pains. So you will, as you expand and grow, have some storage and space considerations. As you take on more events per week, do you have space in your walk-in for the inventory? Do you have counter space to prep? Sometimes at restaurants, they're doing catering prep during the day and then restaurant service at night. Are those kind of overlapping? Does everyone have enough workspace? Things like that. Also storage space for supplies like disposable plates, napkins, sternos, chafers, things like that. Thinking about how to be strategic about that as you grow and not have to expand too big, too fast. Another growing pain is staffing capacity, especially those folks that are full-time employees of yours. If they're on the planning end of things or, the head chef of the catering department, they're going to be the ones taking on all these events. When do they need a break? When do they need to kind of have some help come in? Again, all those tracking things we went back to right before this are going to help you decide when to up your staff, when it's time to take on another full-time person, when you need just some part-time help, and to plan accordingly. And then investment to scale up. So you will need to make purchases and grow. A line of credit is really useful for purchasing inventory during really busy times or purchasing small wares as needed. And then if you need larger purchases like a vehicle or a larger, dedicated workspace, kitchen equipment, a traditional loan may be a better option for you. And then lastly, these are just some basic credentials that you will need for running a catering company. You will need to be certified by the health department, work out of a commissary kitchen. You cannot operate out of a home kitchen to provide catering services. You will need to hold an insurance policy and an additional workers' comp policy to provide to event venues. They all require it. And then you'll need to register your business in the state of Kentucky. Those types of technical things, we at the SBDC are happy to go over all those steps with you and make sure you've got everything in line for that. So we've got a few minutes left. I know I just talked for a very long time about many different topics. So if there's questions, please let me know and we'll see if anyone wants to ask.
That was great, Claire. That was a lot in a
It was
short
a lot.
period of time. Yeah. So I had some questions, and Robert also kind of dovetailed my question. So we'll start with his. But he asks about service charges. Like when writing proposals, is it appropriate to charge service fees? What is the average service fee, and would it be separate from additional labor charge? You kind of answered a little bit about that, but I was a little unclear on why you came up with those numbers for those service fees. How does that all work?
Sure. So it is appropriate to charge additional service fees on the products and services you're offering. I think 20% is kind of an industry standard. That's what's expected as you go out to a restaurant when you tip a server. And so if you charge that 20%, and I think it's also going to behoove you to be upfront with that number and state it clearly to them, because they know what to expect then, and they realistically know if they could afford it or not. And how you come up with those numbers, like for the labor charges, for example, say you need 3 servers for the event, you're gonna pay them $20 an hour. So however long that event lasts, say it's a 3-hour event, they're going to set up for an hour and clean up for an hour. So 5 hours times 3 servers at $20 an hour. That's how you just kind of break down that math of knowing what to charge.
Right. And then so you would add 20% on the labor.
Correct.
And then 20% on your food.
Yes.
And then did you do service charge on your bar service as well, on contracted services?
You charge service charge on those as well. And that is because you are doing the back leg work to organize that for your client.
Okay.
You are making the call to the bar company, you're placing the order, you're making sure that bar company knows when to show up, what to do, the whole run of service. So you're taking that under your belt.
That makes sense. Yeah. I know as an entrepreneur how hard it is sometimes to charge for things when you want the business so bad that you're almost willing to do it for free. You know, that's quite a discipline.
Yes, it sure is. And that's kind of creating those boundaries and holding your line is it's gonna pay off in the long run for sure.
Right. Yeah. Well, so later on you were talking about getting on venue approved vendors lists and stuff. And I know I am, and I'm sure a lot of people out there are the same as I am, but I'm a little nervous on making cold calls. I mean, how do you do that? What's your about that?
Well, one opportunity you could have is if it came up organically. So say some repeat restaurant client of yours is getting married. They love your restaurant. They absolutely want you to cater for them. But you are not approved at the venue where they're getting married.
Mm-hmm.
So that's an opportunity for you to have an open conversation with that venue. Reach out to them and say, "Hi, I've gotten a request here. This is our catering program. You know, all those setup structures that you've worked hard to put in place, all that time planning your menu and your website and your services. Show that to the venue. They will see that you're a credible catering company, and they could assess like, okay, maybe we should see if this person can come on. Maybe they'll give you a one-time, and that's great too. it's also an opportunity for you to show that you do a really good job there. And they might want you to come back because you know what you're doing. So those organic opportunities, if you have a repeat request for a venue, that's a really good signal to keep reaching out. Hey, your people want me there. I'm a hot commodity. Come, let me be on your venue list. If not, I think it's a really good practice to kind of make an elevator pitch or some sort of like sales presentation and set meetings. It's uncomfortable, but it gives you really good practice in presenting yourself. It's really great practice even for presenting to clients. And if you've had some of those similar client presentations about what you do, it's going to be similar, and just setting meetings. I'm going to say, I'm going to reach out to one new event venue every month and see if I can set a meeting and get on their list, and also take their feedback, see if there are other things that they're seeing that you could provide as well.
Okay. So let's just say you take a meeting, or you get a meeting with a cold call venue. What do you take? What do you do? What's the process when you go? How do you sell?
I would bring along an example of your menu, your prices. I would talk about kind of your brand, your niche, like what space are you filling? Are you the, budget friendly caterer? Are you gonna provide all the gluten-free and vegetarian and vegan options anyone could ever need? Are you really well versed in the wedding space and you know how to set up a wedding and plan for that and do all the logistics there? Show them what you excel at so that they see what you bring to the table.
Mm-hmm. Do you bring like sample dishes to that meeting, or is that a different time?
Yeah, that's a great opportunity to do that too. Food goes a long way. You also, a good tip is to feed all those staff that work at the event venues, because they'll
Okay.
remember you that way.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can bring sample dishes. I've been through one process only one time at a venue that it was kind of like an RFP proposal process. They required you to come cook, and many different caterers came to cook and present that way. But yes, also kind of talking about your food, eating it, how you prepare it, what you need to use in their space and not, so they know what to expect from you. That's all important information as well.
Right. Okay. Oh, that's great. Okay. Good to know. So it sounds like persistence pays off in that.
I think so. Yeah.
And
Those
so,
personal relationships, I think, go far.
If you are actively reaching out and you get on a list, what would you expect the amount of business? I mean, would they call you a lot or a little bit, or you still have to maintain the relationship? Just not the list. Being on a list isn't a guarantee of success. So what else do you do?
Yeah, I mean, you're going to want to excel every time you're at the event space. Clean up very thoroughly, be on top of the event timeline, be on top with logistics, communicating between all the different leads, whether that's an event planner, the venue contact, yourself, any other subcontracted services, making sure everyone's in communication just to make a successful event. And then many venues have their own requirements at the end of an event, like you have to take trash to the dumpster, all the rentals go in this closet for pickup. Knowing the ins and outs of every venue and what they expect is super important. But in between those events, when people are maybe calling you or not, stop by and say hello if you're in the area. Keep those relationships going back and forth. Maybe just ask them a question. Say, hey, I'm planning this event in the future for someone in your space, and I was wondering, do you like to set up the tables in this formation or this formation? What do you see works best? Getting that feedback and back and forth relationship can be super helpful.
Okay. Wow. Well, it looks like we're right at an hour, so we better let everybody get back to work. But Claire, this has been very detailed, very good information, and I hope everybody enjoyed it as much as I did.
Yeah. here's my information. And this webinar will be sent out afterwards as well, but my email's here. I'll put my calendar in the chat real quick before we go.
Yeah.
And thank you for coming, everyone.
Yeah. So this calendar link that Claire is going to put into the chat, all you can do is click it. You'll see Claire's calendar. You can just find a time that works for you. Claire will send you a Zoom link, and you can just chit chat with Claire then and pick her brain on your catering. And Claire is just a wealth of information. I've learned a lot from her. So Claire, thank you so much.
Thank you all. Have a great day, everyone.
All right. Well, happy Tuesday, and thanks for joining us for another Toolkit Tuesday. And we'll see you next week on another Toolkit Tuesday. Have a good day today, everyone. See ya.
Bye.